Hello folks and welcome to my channel. I'm Stace and today, instead of a writing topic video, I'm having a go at the AuthorTube Newbie Tag. It dawned on me the other day that I've been doing AuthorTube/BookTube for about a year and a half, and whilst I did do an introduction video for the channel, I've never actually done any of the newbie tags. So I wanted to correct this dire mistake immediately. I'll be releasing a BookTube Newbie Tag video tomorrow as well, since I also forgot to do that one. It turns out there are a whole bunch of tag videos out there that sound like a lot of fun, so watch this space. There might be more of this type of video coming in the future. So let's dive into the questions. So here we go with question 1. How did you find out about AuthorTube? This is going to sound really bad, but I don't actually remember how I found out about it. I've been watching videos by writers for a while on and off, being a writer myself, and then one day I can't even remember what video I was watching, but I noticed the hashtag AuthorTube in it and then came to realize that it was an entire thing all by itself. I'd never thought about doing my own channel at all in the beginning. I was far too shy for that, but then the idea kind of grew and grew after I realized that AuthorTube/BookTube is very much a community platform. Question 2. What genres do you write in? I mainly write in fantasy now. It took me a while to realize that I wanted to be a fantasy writer. When I was a teenager, I loved writing fantasy, and then I went to university for English literature and creative writing, and it was kind of suggested that fantasy is not a viable genre for a writer because it's not as serious and heavy, including heavy themes and as poignant as the others. And then I came out the other side of that a couple of years ago, realizing that I can write whatever I want and it's not up to academia to tell me what that is. So some of my works are also fabulism or non-Latinx magical realism, and I've written shorts, flash fictions, novellas, and novels. But the shorts and the flashes don't really have a set genre, they're just a little bit weird. I've also written one contemporary literary novella, which was built off of what I did for my last year at university when we had to do a creative dissertation. In future, I'd love to experiment with other genres as well, such as horror or maybe a bit of a mystery or thriller type, and also feel-good fiction too. Question number 3. What is your preferred writing tense, point of view, and category of story? So I tend to write in third person close past tense and usually adult fantasy. I absolutely suck at first person and I struggle a lot with tense. I think I've mentioned in previous videos, and this was proven again recently when I started writing a new project that was meant to be in third person present tense, and I kept switching back to past tense because that's usually where I am. And it's an ongoing struggle, guys. I think it always will be. But yeah, third person, close point of view, past tense. I have been wondering recently whether my writing might be more geared towards, or could be more geared towards, young adult, if it might be more suitable for it. But I'm gonna have to consider that more, really, I think, moving forward. And I'm not really sure when I'm going to be able to consider that because there are so many books I need to write in a row. I should probably decide it sooner rather than later, though. But I would like to think, I don't categorize my stories very much because I'd like to think that people who enjoy both young adult and adult fantasy would be able to enjoy my books. So, yeah. Question number 4. Are you a plotter, pantser, or planner? Planner. I am a plotter, planner through and through. I have chapter maps and that's how I outline. I know I have a paragraph summary for every chapter throughout the entire book before I will even start writing draft 1. It's something that I have to do for novellas and novels. That I can't just discovery write and pants my way through it. I think, yeah, it's not something that I'd really be able to deal with. But I have a lot of respect for people who can just sit down with an idea and just discover it as they go. But I like to know where I'm going, where I've been in relation to where I am in a project. I do full outlines for novels and novellas, as I mentioned, but if I'm writing a flash fiction or a short story, then I just kind of wing it because it's only a couple of thousand words, and the concepts for these stories are usually so small that they don't really require keeping track of or an outline or anything. So yeah, greatest respect to you pantsers and people who don't need a full outline, but I certainly will always need a full outline, I think. Question 5. Are you self-published, published, or yet to be published? This is a tricky question because if you've seen my video about why I pulled one of my books off of sale, I did used to have a self-published literary novella, but I took it down off of Amazon after 2 years of it being live. And I did do a video about this last October. I also do have one flash fiction published online by Reflex Fiction Press too. So it took a while for me to decide what my path was going to be as a writer, and with that first novella that I published, I felt I rushed it. Like about 6 months after launching the book, I was just thinking back on it and I thought, I've rushed this. I've published it for the wrong reasons. I felt I had to publish it because it was finished, and and because there aren't many agents who take novellas. So I was in this mindset of, it's finished, I have to put it out in the world, I have to get my name out there as a writer. And looking back on it now, I kind of wish I hadn't done that, because I've come to realize that it's absolutely fine to have something that's finished and just sitting on your finished shelf. It doesn't have to be shoved out into the world immediately as soon as it's done. So now I know for sure that I want to really try my best to aim for traditional publication. So I'm going to be finishing a lot of books that are going to be sitting on a shelf, and it's going to take a lot of finished projects and a lot of querying agents to actually meet that goal, if I do at all. So I've queried once last year in 2020 with my first fantasy novel and didn't get anywhere. So I'm querying again next year with the fantasy novel that I'm editing this year. And it's just gonna keep on going, I think, for probably years and years and years. Number 6, what publishing company, literary agent, and/or printing company are you represented by or use? And if you're not yet published, what is your dream publishing house / literary agent? So I don't have an agent yet. I hope to have one day in the distant future, but I don't have a particular agent in mind. I would just want to work with someone who enjoyed and was passionate about my stories, and with the correct expertise to get them out into the world and reach the most appropriate audience for them. I think a lot of people, dream of being picked up though by the big publishers and their imprints. So I'm no different in that regard. I would love that if I get an agent, and if my agent manages to sell my book, for it to be one of the big 5 publishers. Or is it the big 4 now? I think recently it's gone down to be the big 4, but one of the big well-known publishers would be my dream, I think. Number 7, what AuthorTube related videos can we expect to find on your channel? Well, I started this channel originally to share the huge overhaul and journey that I went through with my writing mindset and my writing process. So my aim is to share helpful and informative videos with encouraging and positive content. And I never want to be a channel that shares negative content if I can help it, kind of like ranting book reviews or 1-star views, this book was horrific, don't read it kind of thing. That's really not my wheelhouse. Like, I'm also not the kind of person who's here to tell you what you should and shouldn't do as a writer. I'm just here to advise on what I felt works best for me as a writer, because how you write is completely up to you and is not my choice. It needs to be the choice of the person who's writing. I do also want to add more vlogs to the channel so that I can connect with the viewers more, because my sit-down topic videos are usually scripted pretty much word for word, and that's because when I'm giving potential advice about things or explaining things, I like to be 100% clear with what I'm saying, so I need to have it ready beforehand. But I know that can cause videos to be kind of rigid sometimes, and I know that sometimes it's obvious that I'm reading off of a script, and I do want to try and work on that as much as possible. But I also want to put videos out there to help boost the confidence of writers who have little of it, like I used to have as a writer as well. Number 8, when did you start writing? I have loved writing as early as primary school, really, but the first big project I attempted was between the ages of 14 and 17, which was an unfinished and extremely cliche fantasy novel, which I decided to shelve instead of continuing to revise and write it because it just would have taken too much work. I started off handwriting stuff because at that point, because I was too young to have my own computer. But yeah, I came back to it after university and realised that I'd changed a lot as a writer, and since then I've changed even more as a writer, and just that revising it would take so much work, and there was so much cliche and kind of borrowed content in it from all the things I loved when I was a teenager, that I decided it was best to just lay that to rest. If you want to hear a snippet of it, then I did read some of it out just to look back and laugh at myself a bit. And that was my 100 subscribers celebration video, which I'll put on the end screen for you. Number 9, what was the first story that you ever wrote? There were lots of small stories that we had to do for exercises at school, most of which I can't remember, but I think the first story I wrote was probably a retelling of the Rime of an Ancient Mariner as part of a primary school project. The first longer form work that I wrote was the one I mentioned that I wrote in my teens, which is a YA fantasy novel built upon all of my favourite interests when I was a teenager, like Lord of the Rings and Tales of Symphonia and all that kind of thing. Number 10, what authors have inspired your writing the most? This is a really tough one because I've been reading since I was quite young, but the first author I really remember appreciating their skill as inspiration when I was older was Haruki Murakami. As you can see, I have an entire shelf of his works here. But also nowadays, Laini Taylor, who, if I'm honest, is kind of like my writer goals, and Frances Hardinge, and more recently, even still, TJ Klune, who wrote House on the Cerulean Sea. But honestly, this list could go on. I feel like we take something from every author that we read in some way or another that helps us figure out what inspires us and how we want to improve as we go. Also, my wonderful and very talented friend Fran, and you can find her over at Fran Writes on Instagram. As well, her writing always has such a dimension and a presence to it, and her character voices and strong narratives are also my writer goals. So, number 11, do you schedule your writing sessions or simply get to writing whenever you find the time? I didn't used to schedule at all. I used to wait until I felt like writing and then do it. But after I overhauled my writing approach and mindset, I completely switched to becoming a scheduled writer. So my writing time now is between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Monday to Friday, sometimes a bit more on the weekends, but I have to do it that early in the morning because I have a full-time job that starts at 10 a.m. So I am an early morning scheduled writer. This was probably the best thing that I ever did for myself as a writer. It has helped immensely because in those 2-hour windows, I can focus and get much more done, I think, than if I had the entire day to work. So it's ended up working really well for me. So yeah, 2 hours per weekday, which is roughly 10 hours-ish of writing time a week. And I generally do keep weekends free just to reset and relax a little bit. Number 12, do you type on a computer, typewriter, write everything by hand, or use a blend of these, and where do you write in general? I tend to write wrapped in a blanket on the sofa in my pajamas and a dressing gown because I'm an early bird. And my laptop is usually on my knee. I sometimes do write at the dining table or in my home office as well. It just depends what I'm working on because I feel when I'm doing something like taking in edits, I need to be sitting in a proper chair at a table so I can have a keyboard. But first thing in the morning, it's nice just to snuggle up on the sofa and type for 2 hours non-stop. When it comes to editing, I love to edit in cafes. Obviously, I've not had much chance to do that in the past year, but I love just packing up all of my stuff and going to a cafe and just sitting for 2 to 4 hours. And while I'm there, just treating myself to a little bit of cake or some lunch and just blasting through a load of edits and then coming home in the afternoon. When it comes to what I use to write, I tend to plan and outline by hand, writing in notebooks, and that's all of my exploring who my characters are, their profiles, deciding their appearance, a bit about their history and their role in the story, and then my outlines. Usually the first draft of them is written in a notebook as well, but then when I switched to actually drafting, I'm on a laptop because I can type much faster than I can write, and I use Scrivener for all of my project writing as well. When it comes to editing, again, I tend to edit draft 1 on paper and then edit the subsequent drafts digitally, just so I'm not constantly wasting paper. But I do use paper for draft 1 because I know I'll get the most use out of it scribbling all over it. So works for me. Number 13, what are you most looking forward to now that you're a part of AuthorTube? I'd love to actually make more connections with other AuthorTubers. I have made a few friends and a whole bunch of BookTube buddies, but not as much with the AuthorTube side because I'm not really sure where to find the communities. I don't really use or like using Twitter very much, and I don't use Facebook anymore, so maybe they're all hiding there and I just haven't found them. But my main social media is Discord or Instagram, so if you have any recommendations for groups or servers on either of those platforms where I can meet and chat with fellow AuthorTubers, let me know. I'm also most looking forward to just sharing my experiences in basically getting my shit together as a writer, in the hopes that it can be of help to other writers who are struggling. If I help even just one other writer to gain a bit of confidence and find something out about their process that make things easier for them, then I would be absolutely thrilled with that. And that is all of the questions. It seems I have run out. I would like to say this tag was originally created by Jenna the Dark One, and I'll make sure to link her channel below. So yeah, that's my AuthorTube Newbie Tag. I'm pleased to meet you all. I hope that you can enjoy my content, and I'm looking forward to making connections with more of you in the future. That's it from me. Bye!